Welcome to part 3 of this Passion Week Devotionals. I hope you've been blessed through it, and I hope that you're applying it in your life and being blessed by that. I'm really enjoying studying through the various stories from the Passion Week. Today we want to talk about leadership. And when you think of the word leader or leadership, certain words come to mind. You think of authority, you think of power, you think of influence, you think of all of those kind of words. Now, whether you like the leaders or not is not what we're talking about, but those kind of words come to your mind. And Jesus was a leader. Jesus was definitely a leader. He had people following him. He had multitudes that followed him, and they wanted to listen to him teach. And as a leader, now coming to the end of his ministry, his public ministry here on earth, you find Jesus now in the upper room in John chapter 13. And in John chapter 13 and verse 1, John writes for us, he says, "Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end." Okay, and you find that what goes on in this story, what goes on in this narrative is that Jesus then gets up during supper. He gets up and he picks up a towel and he goes around washing the disciples' feet. And he's setting an example for us as a leader, for leadership. He's painting a portrait of what leadership looks like. He, as the leader, is washing their feet. It startles them. Peter is upset. Peter says, you can't do this. Jesus says, I have to. And then you don't have any part of me unless I do. And by the end of it, he gets up and he says, have you seen what I did? I've set an example for you. Go out and do the same. Go out and do the same. But here's the thing. See, Jesus had position. Don't mistake that. In verse 3 it says, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going back to God, he rose up and did what he did. He went and washed their feet. Jesus knew his position, and if anyone had position, anyone in this world who's walked this world who had position, it was Jesus. See, he was God. He is God. It says he knew where he came from. He knew who he was. He knew where he was going. His hour had come. He knew his hour had come. But he knew all of this was part of a glorious plan. And he knew who he was in the middle of all this. He knew he was the center part of this whole plan. He knew his position and he was secure in it. But he doesn't lead out of his position. See, that's the thing with our world today. We cry for leaders. So many times you've heard the statement, maybe you've said it as well, that our world is starving for good leaders. We don't have a problem where there's no dearth of leaders. There's no vacuum of leadership in the world. We have many leaders, whether it's in the home as our parents, whether it's in our schools, whether it's in our workplaces, whether it's in our countries. We've got leaders. But what we miss is leaders who we like. Because we find a lot of these people are leaders out of position. They've got in the position of leader. And now they lead out of that position. I'm the leader, so now you all must do what I say. I'm the leader, so things will go my way. I'm the leader for however long. I'm the leader. And so, you better shape up. And I'm not just talking about ministers or presidents or prime ministers. I'm not taking a pot shot at them. Maybe you've grown up and or maybe you're a parent as well and you've used this line, as long as you live under my roof, you will follow my rules. As long as my leadership is there, as long as that position is there, you're under my roof, I'm the leader here, as long as that position is maintained, shut up and do what I'm telling you. Fall in line. See, a lot of people lead out of position. Jesus had position. The Bible tells us Jesus had the position, but he doesn't lead out of that position. He sets an example from a very different place. He says in verse 1, and that's why verse 1 is so important, and I read it. It says, having loved those who were his own in this world, he loved them to the very end. So this act of washing their feet was an act of love. It was an overflow. It was one of those acts of love. It is a flow of that loving attitude of Jesus towards those who were his. He leads out of passion, not position. And not a passion, don't mistake this, not a passion for his position, not a passion for the role. No. He leads out of a passion for people, out of a love for people. That's the kind of leaders we want. Leaders who we know love people. They genuinely love people. I heard a saying I heard a saying some time ago, but which is very relevant to today. It says we live in a world where we use people and we love things instead of loving people and using things. We use people and we love things rather than the other way around. Leaders in our world today, they use people but they love position. Jesus is not that. No, he's not that. He loves people and he used his position. Jesus is different. He sets a different picture of leadership for us, and he tells them, now that you've seen what I've done, go ahead and follow my example. See, the chapter is bracketed by that. It begins with him telling us that he loved them to the very end, and it ends with him, or not really the end, but almost at the end. Jesus tells them in verse 35, by this all the world will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. He gives them that new commandment: love one another as I have loved you, so go and love one another. And very interestingly, this whole scene is happening around a supper. And the supper is the Last Supper. That last time where Jesus sat with the disciples and he broke bread and poured out the wine and said, this is done for you, remember me. A celebration of the sacrifice that he was about to do, which is the ultimate act of loving them to the end. And so this whole upper room is bathed in the love of Jesus. A leader who led from passion, not position. And a God who still today leads from passion. A passion for you and for me. Not leading from position. He's God. He has every right to lead from position. But he chooses to lead out of love. Now you might say, but I'm not a leader. My brother, my sister, you are. Someone is following you. Don't be fooled. Somebody is watching you. Someone or the other is following you. Lead out of love. Live a life that loves and lead out of love, out of passion, not merely out of position. And we will make the world a better place. The world is looking for those kind of people. So let's be those kind of people.